afternoon. I have with me today Miss Melissa Benford.
Yes.
I always use that maiden name.
That's how you know me, right?
Right. So a couple of years ago, during the pandemic, we had a show, my friend and I, called It's About Time Conversations with Charliese and Yolanda. And so as the pandemic started to phase
Yes.
out, I transitioned to Charliese B and my platform of Next Level Purpose.
Oh,
So
great.
you're actually my first guest, not my first video, but my first guest for this
Wow.
platform.
Okay. Honored.
And last time we did have the conversation, we were talking about, I think it was Children's Literacy Month, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. And that was about probably 2 years ago.
Was it only two?
It could have been 3, but we were
Yeah.
talking about the importance of children and being able to have all different levels of literacy, right?
Right.
We know the reading and the writing, but we also know digital literacy is necessary because we live in a world where technology is just running things.
Right.
We need to ensure the digital literacy is a part of our kids' learning because there's also safety issues with that. We have social media,
Yes.
cyberbullying. We have
Yeah.
all those things. So we need to ensure that our kids are safe when they are on these digital platforms. I also talked about advocacy with you.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes advocacy is extremely difficult for a parent because you teach parents how to advocate for their own children. And when we
Yes.
talk about advocacy, we're talking about how do we provide supports and resources and assistance to our families. I have a background
Right.
in family engagement. So
Right.
to our
Right.
families, the whole family, to get the students to success, their best level of student achievement.
Yes.
So also within advocacy, we know that it has to be a coordinated effort that exists between educators, the schools, and the parents.
Right. Right.
It's not one-sided. We all come together. We are partners. We are co-creators in what
Yes.
our students' experiences need to be.
Yes.
And we do
Absolutely.
it at every level. We do it at every level. We don't just start in elementary because we have to do kindergarten readiness, right?
Right.
But then we
Right.
all go all the way on the spectrum and we hit that post-secondary education. That's my love language
Right.
and career. So when we're talking about advocacy, we're also talking about parents don't always know what they don't know.
Right. Right.
I'm an educator. My husband's also in education. We have connections, relationships, but also knowledge to be able to navigate the
Yes.
terrain. But what happens when a parent doesn't have that knowledge to
Right.
advocate for their own child? And so
Right.
today I just want to kind of talk about areas in which we must advocate for our students, particularly the ones that are our underserved, underrepresented youth. We always think when a family, and let's just say this, a family of color, if they are middle class or above, we think that money is the equalizer, and that's not the case. That's
Yes.
not the case.
It's not the
Because what
case.
happens is whether I have a dime or not, as a parent, you look at me, I'm an African American woman. You look at me, you look at the car I drive. It does not mean you're going to treat my child well
That's correct. That is correct.
because of my bracket.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so
That
that's
is
one of the
right.
things that I find a lot as I've gone through um, various parts of the education system. I literally have touched a little bit on everything.
Right.
So I want to just kind of have this conversation today about advocating for our children. What do we need to do, or what does a parent need to know in order to successfully do that, particularly for a child who falls in what we used to say those subgroups. You remember those
Right.
conversations.
Yes.
And now
Absolutely.
the sub is now under, right?
Yes.
But
Right.
it also has a connotation of being below or beneath.
Absolutely.
So those are the things that we're just going to have a discussion about today. We're going to touch a little bit on, you know, even DEI, because a lot of times schools, um, districts, they don't really have a standard in place for DEI programming and policies. They also don't have training. So a lot of times when we start talking about DEI, we are not really in an asset-based place. We're in a
Right.
deficit-based place.
Right.
And so even touching on that, but also touching on social emotional health. When
Yes.
we talk about the holistic child, we're not just serving them academically.
Right.
We are serving them their social emotional mental health. We have to look at that. We have to look at, are there things we have to do for students who have physical disabilities or other types of disabilities as well? How are we serving them? And
Right.
then in order for them to be successful, how are we helping them to be prepared for life?
Right.
So
Right.
today, that's what we're talking about. And I always thought you were the perfect person to have this conversation with, because you have done so much in your background as an educator. Uh, growing up in Versailles, Kentucky, we knew who was going to be an educator.
Yes.
We knew because it was a path. Even if we fought the path, I fought it, raised my hand. We knew what was innately in us was going
Yes.
to have to come out because of the
Yes.
way we were trained. Think about
Yes.
our grandparents, think about our great aunties and our great uncles and how they valued the education in our
Absolutely.
community. So
Absolutely.
let's just start with you talking about your background in education, your journey really from good old Versailles to Western Kentucky University,
Right.
all the way to the east side of
Right.
education.
And you're right. I went to Western Kentucky University, and I think I learned my view of education changed when I had to do a practicum the summer before my senior year.
Mm.
And I went to a county near where I went to college. And I walked in the first grade classroom to work with the teacher. And it was clear 90% of that class had never seen a Black person in person.
Mm.
And this was a school that was what, we call Title I, but still they had not engaged with a Black person.
So
So
explain what Title I is first
so
before,
these
because
are these are schools where the majority they have a large population of children on free and reduced lunch. They need a lot of social services just because of the socioeconomic level of most of their students. So I think for me, that was the first time I was like, wait a minute, what? Because again, coming from Versailles, Kentucky, I had this picture in my in my mind of how the world works. So that's when I realized, just as an educator, that I would be exposing to children more than just academics. A different person of color, of how I treated them, my engagement with them. And I was thinking to myself, if it's like this with the children, imagine with the parents. So then I did my student teaching at Fort Knox on base and saw the difference in that world of education, because of course, military life is a world within itself. So I was able to see the diversity within that I didn't see at the other location. But I did see that piece, as you talked about, that social and emotional piece, because then there were children who had moved around a lot.
Mhm.
And, came back home to teach in Lexington. There I saw more of an affluent population. But again, quickly learned at that point, at the age of 23, all children have similar needs.
Mhm.
There are certain things that some have and some don't, but they all have similar needs. And then, of course, when I came to the Baltimore area, I saw it was an adjustment for me, because I had not seen such a diverse population. I had not seen a place where there were so many, Black teachers and Black people in leadership. So it was an adjustment for me. I think what really changed for me is, of course, I left the classroom to become a school counselor, did that. I still think to this day that was probably my favorite position. because I was able to see how much impacts student learning. Because I think it's easy to forget as a teacher, you have these kids in front of you, you got your lesson plan, you've got your targets you have to hit, you've got things you have to do. But children, just like adults, bring so many things to school. So just like when you show up to work, you have a lot of stuff that you're dealing with. Children are the exact same way they come to school. They're
Yes,
hungry with things.
absolutely.
And that doesn't matter if they live in $1 million home or if they're in Section 8 housing, or homeless. They still come to school with a lot. And that has to be respected, because sometimes we tend to think children are a certain way based on how their parents live. And that's not the case. But when I became an administrator, particularly when I was chair of the IEP process, that's where I saw more than anything, knowledge was power.
Mm,
And I saw that no matter what your race was, no matter how much money you made, if you came to that table and you knew your stuff, there were certain things that you were just going to be openly offered.
mm,
And it was more of a, since you already know all of this, let me just lay it all out. Whereas I'm not saying the parent that didn't have knowledge wouldn't get it, but they definitely wouldn't get it as quickly.
mm,
They may have had to do more to get it, whereas if you came in with it already. So for me to have to then become a part of the system that I had navigated from a facilitator standpoint, for a chairperson standpoint, now I'm on the other side as a parent. And even with the knowledge I had, I still felt like I still had to push. So in my mind, I'm thinking, what if you don't know any of this? So that became something that I was very mindful of, just still having to push. And I
mhm.
still have to do that for my kids, even though it's not necessarily for speech language or, of course, Lila overcame the oral motor, but still having to push, still as that parent. And as you said, the Black parent who has to come in wearing your credentials, letting them know, I know how this works. I
You
know
said
what's
something key, wearing your credentials,
wearing the credentials.
because I know for sure that I tell people it's the power of the badge,
Yes. Yes.
because I have a badge in my school district. I have been treated a certain way when I didn't. And in yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah.
I know that when I literally flip my badge over, because it's not on our district lanyard. So it's just on like some Michael Kors chain or something like that. And when I flip my badge over, the response was different
Right.
when I had an
Absolutely.
issue.
Absolutely.
And that should not be the case. As if I'm a parent and I have a concern about my child, I
Right.
should be able to get the same level of response.
I agree. I agree.
And
And
I
I
think
have found, go ahead.
no, I think that we just don't, um, I think we just don't respond in a realistic way when it comes to that. Like we really don't say, um, if I was just a regular old parent, you wouldn't treat me this way. But I knew it and I felt it in that moment. So I
Absolutely.
completely understand. I had the conversation with somebody about my child and he was very dismissive.
Sure.
And I literally flipped the badge on his face and then he extended his hand to shake my hand because he knew where I worked then. If I had a complaint just as a parent, you should have been as equally gracious and
Absolutely.
courteous. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too, I'm sure I'm not discounting what anyone else's experience may be, but from observation, it appears to me as if
Mm-hmm.
that's even 10 times harder, again, when you're a Black parent. Because from my experience, a white parent could have the same credentials and have the same demands, and that would be known. But a Black parent like that is considered difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I can ask for the same thing this white parent asked. Because the color of my skin, I'm difficult. And that, I think, is what really brought me into creating my own, business of helping parents advocate for their children.
Mhm.
And my goal is eventually, when I work, with parents, is for them to be able to do it on their own. But I'm
Yes.
also mindful that they don't have the background and degrees that I have in education. But I do initially, when I work with them, first give them the tools they need, because my hope is giving them that information, they can go do it on their own. There have been times where I have had to come in with them.
Yes.
And parents are always amazed at, when I join them, how much more they're offered, what they're told that they've never been told was available. All these resources they didn't even know was available to their child until I walked in with them. And that's a problem.
Mhm.
That's a problem, that somebody has to come in with you and sit with you to help you. And I have had parents of all color, but the children are all the same color.
Mm.
So that was really a passion. Now, I have to tell you, my focus has changed over the last 6 months, because
Okay.
I was really about helping the parent navigate what their children need.
Okay.
But because of personal experience over the last school year, I've been aware of the parent also needing support in being the advocate. Because my
Yes.
thing is, let me show you how to help your children, not realizing the, for lack of a better word, but I'm sure it's accurate, backlash that
Mm.
they're going to face, and the pushback they're going to get for the audacity they have as a parent of color to come in here with demands. And I have found that to be the case, whether you're in a public school or an independent school. It's still, wait a minute. It's clearly a, do you know your place type thing. And I have never, you've known me the entire 48 years I've been on this earth. I never reference, mention, discuss, or play the race card. But I think we've gotten to a point now in society where it is so blatant, like people aren't even trying to hide how they feel about you, the color of your skin, or anything of that nature.
Absolutely.
But I have found now, personally, as a parent, and everything I do in my business always come from personal experience, because I think that's where the passion lies. It's not
Right.
something that I've just observed. Anything I'm helping you with as a parent, I've experienced it. So I already know how you feel. I already know how your child feels. I already know how it impacts your family, your home. I already know that. But I have found this school year, just as a parent myself, in attempting to advocate what is best for my child and those around her, the treatment that I have received that I just don't think I would have received had I not been a Black parent. It's
Mm.
not as impressive and honored for a Black woman to be highly educated. I have just as much experience as you have, knowledge as you have, if not more. And because I am not submissive and go along to get along, though I am always respectful and
Mhm.
I like to think gracious, it's still a problem that I have this, that makes people uncomfortable, because for the most part in education, if we can be truthful, they're not used to it.
Oh, yeah,
Here
absolutely.
comes a mother who's 2 steps ahead of me. Here comes a mother, when I say this, she sees right through it. She knows exactly what that is. And how, for me, I think puts you on the hit list. And that's something that I think before this school year, I did not think about, but now I'm more mindful of the care and support I give the parent in the journey, um, as well as, how they feel within their school system and in their schoolhouse, just as equally as what I'm trying to get to the child by empowering their parent.
Right. So you talked about earlier how you had to advocate a little bit differently for your two daughters because of delays.
Yes,
You worked with even medical professionals to
yes,
ensure
absolutely.
that those things were met, but
Yes,
you had to seek out that
yes,
beyond, your ordinary staff of the doctors that were serving your kids. So you had to reach out and you had to do some research. I know we really talked about this in depth on the last one, but now your daughters are what, middle school and high school?
Yes. Yes.
The needs are very different now.
Yes.
You have to be very cognizant of the honesty of the hormones of young people, the mental health of
Mental
young
health.
people,
Absolutely mental
and the
health.
influences and things of that nature. So let's talk a little bit about how you have to advocate for your children now at the
Mm-hmm.
ages and the grades they are,
Mm-hmm.
um, different levels.
Yeah. I think for one, I overestimated the benefit of being a familiar parent.
Mm.
My children have been at the same school since the age of 2. It's preschool through 12th grade.
Okay.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, being the parent that I am, you become familiar. There is a security in that that allows you to freely advocate, again, always respectfully, but assertive in what you need for your kid. But in people seeing your passion and love and care for your children, it will be received in the love and grace it is given.
Mm.
And I found that not to be the case. I found that you just have to come across the wrong issue at the right time. And
Mm.
maybe what was at one point an open door policy gets slammed in your face.
Mm.
Because as my children get older, it becomes more, again, about that social and emotional component of that.
Mm-hmm.
I had an incident with my daughter. This happened back in October. I'm at my computer, I'm working. She comes up to me and she says, "Mom, you won't believe this video that I got." I
Mm.
said, "What video?" And you have, your daughter's the same age as mine. It's always a video. Watch this video. You see this video. You see that video. What video? She shows me the video.
Yeah.
The video is of a new student to the school. She was a freshman. This was a new Black student on a
Okay.
school-sponsored field trip. And on this field trip, on the bus back from the field trip, she is being recorded by 2 white students who are forcing her to call herself the N-word repeatedly for like 2 minutes.
Okay. So let me stop you right here. The
Mm-hmm.
N word. You said the N word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The word is so offensive that you won't even say it.
I won't even say it.
Yeah. I'm already offended, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? Okay, so keep going.
So and it's clear in the video, and I still have the video. It's clear in the video the girl's uncomfortable, but she's doing it. You have to think you're new. I don't know if there were any girls on the bus who looked like her. And you have these girls and you can hear the girls feeding her what to say. Say this, say that, call yourself this, say that, over and over and over again for 2 minutes.
So it's bullying and hazing.
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
wait a minute. So are adults on the bus as well?
Yes, you can hear the chaperones on the bus talking. You can hear them as clear as day. As you can hear me, you can hear them.
And they're saying nothing.
Well, they're talking to each other, but they're not addressing what's being done on this video.
So again, they're saying nothing about the incident. They're saying nothing.
They're saying
like
nothing.
Business as usual, right?
Yeah, nobody's saying anything.
So the little girl is sitting there and she's complying because obviously it's more than one person in her face, right? So it feels like she's being ganged up on.
Absolutely. And
okay.
you can hear the nervous giggle. Like, and she say this and she kind of giggles and she won't really look at the camera. She's uncomfortable, clearly. But what are you gonna do? And I don't fault her for that. She's a 14-year-old girl in a brand new setting. And I'm under this pressure and this is entertainment. So I'm saying it. And every time they tell her to say it, she's hesitant and they would say it again. And she, I think at one time even said, I've already said it. One thing they told her to say, and they tell her, say it again.
And they're
And
recording her.
they're recording her. And they record her, and one of the white girls recording then sends it out to Black girls at the school.
So it's not just recorded, it's distributed and with the
Yes.
potential to go viral. Is that what we're
Yes,
saying?
because she sent it to several group chats. You know how girls are. There's us six in
Yes,
this
yes,
group,
yes,
and then
yes.
there's 10 of us in this group, and this group's different than that group. And then there's just 3 of us in this group, and maybe the other 2 in this group aren't even in those 2 groups. And then and it's being sent.
And see, my concern at this point is that someone's going to actually post it to social media, because what happens is when you do that, it's out there forever and
Forever.
ever and ever.
Yes.
So
Yes.
something that could have potentially happened to me in 9th grade will show up in my adulthood. Is that what
Yes.
we're saying? Okay.
Yes.
I just want to be clear, because I'm very cognizant of social media and the impact that it
Absolutely.
has on students. I worked in a high
Absolutely.
school, and I know how quickly things move around
Yes, they do.
in the high school, quicker than lightning, from the time you get from one end of the hallway to the other. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so what happens after this? I mean, because now I'm concerned that, I don't know, for me, it becomes, so this happens on the bus, then next, does it happen in the classroom? Does it happen in the bathroom? So what happened?
So the next morning I get up, I cannot get to the school fast enough, in a panic, in a sheer panic. I go into the office. I tell the administrative assistant, I need to talk to someone. I said, there's a video out. You've got to get a hold of it. It's horrible. It's involving a particular student. This cannot get out. Somebody's got to address this, because my concern initially was, does she know
Mm,
that this video has even been sent? I don't even know if she's in any
mm,
of the groups that it was sent to. I don't want her to be at school, like you said, and she's at lunch and somebody plays it. So again, I'm so concerned about the overall well-being, because, as you know, the increase in suicides for Black and brown women and girls, this could trigger her. This could trigger somebody that this has happened to, who gets the video. Somebody else
yes,
could have
yes.
been racially bullied, cyberbullied, and sees this video. It triggers their experience. You never know. So I know they're vulnerable. I know this can be triggering. I know this can be humiliating. I know Black and brown girls are more likely to face cyberbullying and online racial
Mhm.
attacks. So I'm strictly thinking about the well-being of the children, because I know my daughter's response in receiving it. I can only imagine someone who is in the video. So I tell them, at that time, no one was available. So I'm heading out the building. The administrative assistant, she calls me back in and says, can you talk to the dean of students? I say, yes. I go in. At that time, I hadn't met her. It was October. I hadn't met her, introduced myself. She was lovely. I showed her the video. She was stunned. She was
Mm,
stunned. From my phone, sent her a copy of it. And I told her, I just wanted you all to know as soon as possible, so someone would take care of this. And she says, okay. And from there, I leave at the time with no doubt in my mind
mm,
that the school is going to go full force to make sure that this is dealt with from a discipline aspect,
mm,
emotional aspect, a social aspect,
mhm,
a mental health aspect, that we are going to make sure that this is covered, so that anyone who received it knows that this school is not that kind of place,
mm,
and it is not acceptable. And for anyone who was triggered or hurt or harmed emotionally, gets the support that they need to overcome that. Because again, you never know. We read in the papers all the time how many kids commit suicide because they were bullied. Something was recorded and it went viral, and
yes,
they couldn't
absolutely.
withstand it. The girl
Yes,
who was beat up in the bathroom, and it was recorded and posted, and 3 days later her mother found her dead. You never know. So
right.
I left with
Absolutely.
full confidence that it was going to be dealt with. And I had a sense of relief knowing that, for one, I have that kind of relationship with my daughter where she would come and show it to me. And that, I was able to speak to someone and give them the video and, get this squared away as soon as possible. That was my thinking when I left the building.
So what did happen?
Nothing.
What do you mean nothing?
Nothing.
Like there was
I
no response or no action or no what?
I later found out that the girls were addressed. So I will say that the girls who recorded it.
Okay.
But as far as the girls who received the video, in all of the group text, there was nothing. No apology that they received it, no offer of support, no comfort, no time with the counselor, no let's all get together because, we don't know exactly who all has seen it. So let's get everybody together. This is the counselor in me. Let's get everybody together to make sure anybody who has been exposed to it or hears about it knows it's unacceptable. Let's talk about why it's not acceptable. Let's talk about why it's harmful in a multitude of ways and how we have to be gentle with the victim of the video because of their trauma from the experience. So I thought this was going to be a learning opportunity, but no one said anything to anyone who received that video.
But the people who received it, you said, were other young African American girls, right? That received the video.
Yes,
In the
and
group
there
chat.
were, in some of those group texts, there were, one or two white students as well who could equally be as appalled and shocked and traumatized.
Right, absolutely.
Because everybody
absolutely.
doesn't think like that. So I don't want to come off like if you were white and got it, you'd be fine. No, there are white children, and some of those girls on those threads, I know their parents, who I'm sure were equally horrified and found no humor whatsoever in what they received. But I know there are Black parents who have a daughter walking around their house right now with that on their phone, and the parents have no idea because parents weren't contacted, notified, apologized to, a letter of community, offered support. It was in October, which in independent schools, it's key for enrollment. You have open houses. And something like that get out, that impacts how many people visit, how many people apply. There's an impact of you openly dealing with that. So at that time, there was nothing.
Okay. Okay. So
And
what happened next?
We are now in June. So just to be
Okay.
clear, that happened in October. It is June. Nothing has happened about
Oh,
that.
I said what happened next, and nothing's happened. Is that what you're
Nothing's
saying?
happened. And
So it's
when
never been publicly addressed that this occurrence has taken place. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I later questioned through my attorney why no one helped the girls who received that video, I was told that I was wrong. They did address it. They had two staff members talk to the two girls who did the recording. And one of those staff members was Black. So they did deal with it.
Okay. So you just said your attorney. I feel like I'm missing something. You have an attorney. So I think I am missing a piece to the puzzle to understand how did we get to an attorney. So can you kind of help me out with that?
I think, truthfully speaking, prior to that day, we've been on the campus 13 years. My husband and I had served in every capacity you could think of, every leadership position a parent could have. I have been the representative for the Parent Association. I have been a parent ambassador as far as giving tours. And when we first got there, I worked with admissions because one of the schools they recruited for polo for the upper school was the Lexington school. So at the time, the director of admissions found out I was from Kentucky, and she was like, "You're going to help me with the Lexington school." So I have always been one, campus tours, hosting things for new parents,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you can think of. That
Right.
was me. And on that day that I came on that campus about that video, that all changed. That all changed. And I think it was compiled with after I left the school for that video, left that building, my husband and I had a meeting with another faculty meeting regarding my youngest daughter.
Okay.
And in that meeting, the faculty member was sharing her concerns about a leadership program. And she was very vocal with my husband and I about her limits for the leadership program. I won't go into too much detail, but she was very clear about the lack of resources that she had. And she kept asking my husband and I to speak to the head of school on behalf of the program. And we know this person. My girls adore this person. And she felt that it would help her if we would communicate some of this, because she kept saying that the head of school doesn't know some of the things that she's sharing. She had information from other schools about
Mm-hmm.
how other schools do the program, but she talked about why their program was superior because of some of the things they had in place that she just didn't have. So she kept saying,
Mm-hmm.
please tell the head of school, please tell the head of school. Now, I did not agree to do that. I didn't agree to do that. Stefan agreed to do that. So in the meeting, in real time, Stefan says, I am going to email him now.
Stefan's your husband.
Yes. He
Okay.
says, I'm going to email him now to request a meeting so that I can share these things with him in an attempt to advocate for her and her program at her request.
Okay.
So we left that meeting, hugs and laughter. At the time, I did not want my youngest daughter there. So she peeked out to make sure the hallways were clear. And I left because I thought my youngest would not be happy that I was there. So my husband had a meeting with the head of school that Friday. So on Monday, I've shown the video and met with this faculty member. On Friday morning, my husband goes to meet with the head of school. My head of school initially attempts to pretend he has no idea why my husband's there. But it's clear as my husband begins to speak that he does know why he's there.
Mm.
But as they get further into the conversation, the head of school picks up on, wait a minute. And he says, did somebody on my staff send you to talk to me about this? Surely not. And my husband said, yes, she did. She asked me to come and talk to you about this. So my assumption is he got the request from my husband. My husband told him what it was about. We all in the schoolhouse know this is how it works. He goes straight to her and says, why does he want to meet with me about this? I believe in an attempt to not indict herself and what she had said about the school and what she
Mm.
had said about what he had not given her and what she needs us to tell him because it's not there, to deflect.
Mm-hmm.
He brings up my behavior at the meeting and makes a horrible allegation against me. So at the end of the meeting, I'm going to go back to the meeting with my husband. In the meeting with my husband, tells him, thank you for your time. I just wanted, to bring these things to your attention, have a good rest of your day. It's ending on a positive note. My husband gets up. He gets himself together. He turns to walk out the door. The head of school says, I was hoping Melissa would be here today. My husband turns around and says, what? He says, I was hoping Melissa would be here today. And he says, why? He goes to say that the faculty member that, again, we met with on Monday, who asked us repeatedly to go and advocate on her behalf about the program, had told him that I made disparaging remarks about children during that conference. And my husband says, "What?" He said, "Yes, she says that I made disparaging remarks about children during that conference." And my husband says, "No, she didn't." He said, "I'm the only person that was in that room outside of those two. And I tell you, my wife did not do that. That's not even who she is." And of
Right.
course, anybody who knows me
Yeah.
knows I'm
No.
not going to
Yeah.
make a disparaging remark about children. That's like so far from who I am. And the head of school says, "Well, she said she did. And we can't have her on campus like that." And my
Oh.
husband says, "What are you talking about? We can't have her on campus if she's going to say disparaging things about children." My husband said she didn't. And he said, "Well, the faculty member said that she did."
So wait, I
You're
don't
not
know.
confused.
I'm
You're not
confused.
confused, but
I'm not
I'll let
confused.
you ask
Okay.
questions.
So you mean to tell me that your husband goes on behalf of this faculty member to advocate for something that she is requesting to the head of schools to advocate on behalf
Mhm,
of the faculty member, and then the
mhm.
faculty member basically felt reprimanded, so to speak.
Probably, I would
Yeah,
say.
I
If I
would
had to
say, I mean,
guess.
the way the story's, you know, fleshing
Yeah.
out in my mind.
Yes.
Um, so turns and basically throws you under the bus.
With a false allegation.
Somebody throws you under the bus with the false
With a
allegations
false allegation, yeah,
that
because she
you
didn't
don't
like
even.
actually throw me on the bus like I actually did something. She threw me under the bus as if to let me just make up something about Melissa or try to say something she said meant something, because nothing like that came out of my mouth. So I don't know what she used or how she misconstrued. I don't know what she did, but yes, she then deflected and made it about me and my behavior during this conference.
Okay, so at this point, then it becomes an attack on your character.
Yes. And
Okay,
again, I'm not present.
you're not present. So
This
this
was
is
not my meeting. I did not
okay.
request a meeting. Stefan never in any of his correspondence gave any indication that I would be there. It was clear it was a meeting between the two of them. So why he would have expected me to be there, I don't understand.
But he tells the head of schools tells your husband that you can no longer come on campus.
Stefan says, and he says, "What do you mean?" He says, and at this time I'm doing some things in the preschool.
Okay.
Because in my business, I have realized that I had a gap in the early childhood.
Okay. Okay.
Because the way certification is set up in Kentucky is different than certification is set up in
Right.
Maryland. So when I was in Kentucky, I could teach K-5 and I could
Right.
teach 6 through
Right.
8 language arts. But when I moved to Maryland, I lost kindergarten because kindergarten here is considered early childhood, not
Okay. Gotcha.
elementary. So I was having more and more parents come to me in my business wanting help for, like, my girls, age 5 and under,
Mm-hmm.
the 3-year-old, the 2-year-old. And the only experience I had at that time were my own children.
Right.
So I
Right.
loved the school. Preschool was the best years for us on that campus. So at this point, I started working with the preschool because that was going to give me a better sense of the younger age.
Okay.
Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I was in that building almost every day. So my husband says, "What do you mean?" He says, "She can't be in the preschool if she's making disparaging remarks about children." And my husband says, "So are you firing her?" He said, "Yes."
Oh.
So my husband said, "So let me be clear. You are standing here with me talking about my wife's employment in her absence."
No,
And
no letter, no communication, nothing. Just telling your husband that you're
telling my
fired.
husband,
Wow.
because at a parent conference he did not attend,
Mm.
the staff member said that I made disparaging remarks about children. This was October the 27th. I'm going to keep saying this. We are in June. I have not had any interaction with the head of school since that day.
But you were dismissed from your position.
Yes. And I have not had one contact with him at all. His message was sent through my husband. So of course there is a narrative now, and among staff, that there was an incident with me.
Wow.
There was no incident with me. I had a parent conference. So I think all of this fueled me getting off campus because, again, with the preschool, anybody will tell you I was there every day. So here I am with this video. I'm upset about the video. I've made that clear between Monday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I meet with the upper school and give the video, meet with the faculty member, I've made it clear I'm not happy the way this is handled. Boom, by Friday, he meets with my husband. And again, I have been vocal, respectfully, in the right spaces and places about the need for, more African-American teachers, opportunities for African-American parents. And there was something I won't get into that happened in August that gave me an indication that the head of school did not like my frequent presence on campus. And I
Okay.
think it was because he knew I had a voice. And if I'm there all the time, and maybe him anticipating something like the video happening, if I'm there and speak on it, if people hear me, they're going to believe me. Because anybody who knows me knows I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to just make up stuff. People who know me know how much I love that school and the people there. So for me to say there's a problem, there's really a problem. So you silence me by removing me from campus, then you don't have to worry about it. And from October until today, I'm very quiet about it. So that allows you to create this narrative because the
That's
question
right.
is asked repeatedly, where is Melissa Benford? She's just
Yes.
disappeared. This isn't who
Yes.
she is. All of a sudden, no one sees her. This is a woman, even before I was working in the preschool, if you were on campus, you saw me.
To this day, which October, how many months has that been?
I mean, we're almost 8 months away.
Okay. So my question is, nothing was ever done or said in relationship to the video to the broader um families, parents, anyone, correct?
Or the girls who received it, no.
Okay, or the girls who received it. Um, that's very concerning to me. Obviously, there has been some violation of policy, I would think, um, particularly as you've lost a job that you never received a termination from, other than a conversation with your husband. Is that
Right.
correct?
That is correct.
So have you received any type of communication from the school?
Well, at that point, it became a school attorney issue.
Okay.
Um, and the communications that I've had from the school at this point has been their attorney. And that has not been positive because she began communicating with me in January, and she sent me, through my attorney, a letter that
Okay.
was the most vile, racist piece of correspondence I have ever received in my life. I could not believe somebody wrote that. I could not believe that somebody at the school read that letter and said, "It looks great, send it to a parent." I was stunned. And the issue is, in the letter, there is no attempt to defend the head of school's behavior.
Mm.
And there's no attempt to defend the teacher's violation of my privacy as a parent during a parent conference. And they do not defend his behavior. And the only thing they say about her is she felt like I was trying to leverage things. I'll just say that. But again, my attorney has said repeatedly, what are you accusing her of saying in this meeting?
Right.
Not to mention, the meeting is none of your business. We are
Right.
both educators. We know ethically you do not reference somebody's parent-teacher conference.
Yeah.
The only people that are supposed to know what happened in that conference are the teacher and the parents. That's it. If, as a professional, you feel you need to share something in there, that's what I would do. I would say, okay, so based on this, I do think that's concerning. Is it okay with you if I share it with so and so? That's what I would say. That's what and if they said no, they wouldn't hear from that person.
Right.
Because I don't want a parent to feel safe with me, and then you get a call from somebody repeating something that I said. So I have a right to privacy, and he, as the head of school, me being a former school administrator, I know you don't sit in a conference with a parent and discuss a parent you weren't present at a conference you weren't present for, and mention things that you have no reason to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then on top of that, what you're saying is a lie.
Yeah.
So then it was that the meeting was hostile. Then it was,
Wait a minute.
remember,
I thought you said y'all gave hugs.
left in hugs. And then it was
Wow.
the fact that she made sure my daughter wasn't in the hallway. That became us angry and trying to sneak out and getting her to, I mean, just something like really diabolical in trying to get out of this building without my children seeing, as if I had done something. And as a result, insinuating, I guess, there was shame and we were trying to get out of the building.
Absolutely not. I'm going to tell you why. Absolutely not. My husband and I both work at a school district. We go in and out of school buildings often. But when we go to our daughter's school, she does not want us there. She gets
Exactly.
embarrassed. She's like, oh my God, here y'all come. Here y'all
It's middle
come.
school. They don't want you there.
No, she didn't want me there on any of the levels.
Right.
So to turn that around like it's like you were doing something wrong is very intentional and deliberate to shape the narrative.
Yes.
And so even as an educator, even as a parent, I know for a fact a lot of kids, once they get to middle school and high school, will melt into the ground if their parents are in the building. I also know that when I again, my daughter was in middle school, first day of school, I chose her school to volunteer, and she says to me, please go somewhere else.
Right. Right.
I do not want you here on the first day of school. You'll be here snapping pictures, doing selfies. I mean, she's just really like that. So
Right.
that's also concerning to me that they would flip the narrative on that as well. But I have to go back to the root of the issue, which was a video that was highly inappropriate. It involved, like I said, bullying, hazing,
Yes.
embarrassment, degradation. I mean, it's horrible.
Yes, the list goes on and on.
Yes, it goes on and on. And so for me as an educator and as a parent, I'm just as appalled. No matter which position I'm in, I am appalled that this has circulated and there has been no letter to say this is out there. We apologize that it's out there. We've addressed the situation, that there has been nothing like that. And that to me is a clear failure on the part of the administration of any school.
Yes.
Of any school. That is a failure.
Yes.
On their part.
Yes.
I recently have written articles that discuss the mental health for African American women, being our own advocates in terms of health wise as well, whether it be mental health or even physical health. I've talked about in these articles how it has been suicides, mental health breaks, things of that nature, because of the amount of stress on African American women and girls to perform or let me say to perform and achieve at high levels, and yet never have the ability to have self-care because they're fixing the world, or we have broad shoulders that we can carry these things. And so I have to imagine that your daughter had to have been traumatized in some way.
Of course.
With that video.
She still references it. She still mentions it.
Yes. And so the young lady, I'm also concerned that the young lady's parents may not even know that the video exists. I don't know. They might know and they might not. But how as a parent would you feel if that happened to your child? Like,
Well, and that's what I mean when I say my shift has focused to advocating slash caring for the parent. Because after that, and we became vocal about the treatment, we have been harassed and threatened and singled out and bullied. Everything that happened to the young girl in the video has happened to my husband and I, and they're with no regard. And these things are in place to make it very difficult for us to navigate. And the school attorney every other week is calling my attorney with some vicious threat regarding us and our access to campus and all types of stuff. And first of all, you've known me my whole life. If I said something at a conference, I said it. I am not going to say something at a conference and say I didn't say it. And if I said I didn't say it, I didn't say it.
right.
Because I'm not going to be advocating for my children and then lying about what I said. If I said it, I said it. So to me, that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that whole racial piece, the fact that you have myself and this white faculty member, and she says I said something, and that's the end of it.
Right.
And the entire school is behind her in what she said I said. Because I was thinking the right person just needs to know. That's what I told my attorney initially. But then everybody that I thought was the right person found out, and it's been radio silence.
Mm.
So you have to think every head of every division knows, because there's protocol in place for me now, campus wide.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Like you're a threat, right?
Exactly. So there's protocol in place for me. So they all know and because of that, senior leadership knows, because of my attorney, the president of the board knows. And I know that there are members of the board of trustees that not only know, but also some have documentation to prove everything that I'm saying to you. And it has been since October, and it's been radio silence.
So all of the
Who
things they say,
cares?
yeah,
Like literally,
yeah,
who cares? But I'm thinking, if I'm experiencing all of this as a grown woman,
yeah,
I'm not surprised that nothing's done when the 14-year-old is on the bus being forced to call herself the
absolutely.
N-word. When all of the Black girls get the video on tape, it's swept under the rug. Am I really surprised that no one cares if the people who run the school know how I'm being treated as a parent because I'm advocating for the right thing to be done?
Mm.
And I am being threatened every other day, and racist, letters from the attorney. And it's just one thing after another with her, an attempt to wear me down. But, she doesn't know me. You cannot wear me down. So I'm thinking this is just as a whole an issue, which is why I now, when I think of a parent, when I tell you at this meeting, you need to make sure you do this, this, and this, this, and this, I am now aware of how the treatment of the parent can be and how that can impact the parent's ability to advocate for their kid, because it's hard to advocate for your kid when you're also trying to defend and protect yourself. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does. So, as we're rounding out this interview, I want to ask you, if there's a parent who is watching this, what are some ways that they can advocate for their child if an incident like this were to occur to their child?
My recommendation is this: your priority, responsibility, and obligation is to the overall well-being of your child.
Yes.
And you have to put that before any and everything. You cannot waver based on the response you get from others, because
Yes.
that is also a tactic and strategy. If we ignore you long enough, if we
Yes.
make it harder for you, if we keep putting roadblocks in front of you, we will wear you down. But if you know for a fact there are things that your child is supposed to have, you need to do everything within your power to make sure that they get it. And you cannot be intimidated by the power that people either have or
Yes.
think they have. You had, at the end of the day, need to be able to risk it all to make sure that your child gets what they're supposed to get. Because I am hopeful for them as I am hopeful for myself. Eventually somebody will care.
Yes.
And
Yes.
eventually somebody will want to do the right thing. And eventually somebody will hear this and say, that's wrong. And I don't care who I am, what my position is, what I'm supposed to be doing, titles, this, and that. This is wrong. And it
Yes.
has to be changed. So you just have to keep using your voice.
Yes.
You just have to scream at the top of your lungs. And I told my husband, excuse me, what I've learned is this. Because like you said initially, I thought resources made it different. I thought knowledge made it different. I thought experience made it different. But you're going to be in some places where, whether you are the parent in the low performing school, living below the poverty line, or the parent who is at the best institution money can buy and have all the resources you need, at the end of the day, you are both Black parents of Black children. And you both have to work just as hard, and you both have to just keep using your voice to advocate for your children and what's right, and not grow weary in well-doing.
That's it.
And just continue on and be able to take the hits and the blows and get yourself community. That's what
Yes.
I said, community, whether it was my attorney, whether it was my pastor, whether it was, my friends in politics who have supported me, whether it was the NAACP, when I'm telling you what my support is, I have not mentioned anybody within the school. So
Right.
you have to build community outside of the school and get people to rally with you. And that's hard. And it takes a lot of work. But, I've been at this for almost, 8 months. And my
Right.
thing is, if you're not going to do anything about it, that's fine. If you've made life difficult for me, that's fine. You've targeted and harassed me in every way you possibly can. And, that's fine too. But I'm going to make sure that I continue to speak for my children. And to me, this is a form of advocacy, because even if I'm letting parents that are there know this is possible, parents that are thinking about coming, this is possible. And for the parents who left because they were treated this way all these years, because again, I said from the beginning, my concern was the mass exodus of Black families at the school. For them to see somebody sees you, somebody
That's right.
is sounding the alarm, your work was not in vain. We believe you.
That's right.
Hold your head up for what you were able to do, and don't feel bad that you could not withstand the pressure and left, because everybody can't do what I'm doing. And I say that with all humility, because the weight of it
Yes.
been unimaginable.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me on this next level purpose.